Welcome to The Professor is Live with Mark Salisbury, Professor of Computer Science at the University of St. Thomas. In each lively 25-minute episode, Mark and producer Rico Smart dive into topics shaping our world, featuring expert interviews and engaging live audience participation. Discover groundbreaking ideas for the future and timeless wisdom you can't afford to forget, all infused with humor and charm. Leave every episode feeling inspired, informed, and optimistic about what lies ahead. For more bragging about this show, go to The Professor is Live.
Hi, I'm Mark Salisbury. Welcome to my classroom. Today, I'm joined by my producer, Rico Smart. That's him right down in the corner there. And we're going to look at what it means to be a cowboy in our emerging future. And so this idea of the cowboy and looking into it is all kind of started by my brother-in-law, Dean. And Dean was an art instructor at a college for many years. And when he retired, he remarked to me that he's now going to do the job he's always wanted to do, and that's be an artist. And that got me thinking, it made me think about, that I've had some really cool jobs. I've been very blessed to have some really interesting things to do for a living. But, I can see retirement on the horizon. And I thought to myself, what it is that I might want to do. What is that thing like for Dean that he's always wanted to do? And then I remembered what I always wanted to do. Yeah, that's right. I've always wanted to be a cowboy, right? And so when that picture was taken, it was close to the beach. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going out west. I'm going to be a cowboy. And he said, son, you see that ocean there? That's as far west as you can go. So I don't know. I put the dream aside for a long time, and now it's come back. And Rico, I can see that you are actually, you've had this dream too.
You can tell?
I don't know. It's just something that it just struck me. Yeah. So anyway, I did hear about, there's some folks, because I thought I missed my chance. And there's some folks out in Australia that have actually picked this up, but they got a twist on it. And they got some technology that goes with it. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this, and so you can see what I'm talking about.
Meet SwagBot, an AI-powered robot that could potentially transform cattle farming. Researchers at the University of Sydney are betting on it to make the industry smarter, greener, and more efficient.
Once the cattle are used to the robot, they will follow the robot around.
When SwagBot was first launched in 2016, it was a simple herding robot built to handle uneven terrain. Now packed with sensors, AI, and machine learning, SwagBot can check the health, type, and density of pastures, and even keep an eye on the cow's health. Using data to autonomously herd cattle to the best pastures, it can move them before land is overgrazed and soil becomes degraded. Salah Sukarie, whose team made the SwagBot, is a professor of robotics at the University of Sydney.
You want to move the animals to the right part of the pasture where there's good protein, good carbs, and you don't want them to overgraze. You want them to move to the next part of the pasture. And you want to be able to do that in a very fluid manner without fences and so forth.
So, Robot Cowboy. So there you have it, Rico. What do you think of that?
It's pretty impressive. I wonder what the cows think of it.
Yeah, good question. So anyway, I was wondering how this thing really works. And so our first guest is Michael Hennessy, and he's a professor of mechanical engineering at the University of St. Thomas. And I asked him to explain how this thing works for me. So watch. This is Dr. Michael Hennessy, professor of mechanical engineering at the University of St. Thomas. Welcome, Mike, to The Professor is Live.
Well, thanks for inviting me to talk about robotics.
Yeah, so, so what are these robot cowboys and how do they work?
Well, to answer that question, let's kind of do an inventory of what we see on the video and then talk briefly about how it works, at least conceptually. So if you look at the video, you've got some, look at this as an engineering system with different subsystems. You got some mechanical stuff, like the wheels and the legs and so on. You got actuation, motors actuating the wheels, maybe some brakes. Lots of sensors, that's another category, GPS, vision, and so on. You also have some controls on board, communication, command and control, navigation, things like that. And there's also a base station, because it's not autonomous. So you have maybe like a laptop, computer loaded with software, and so on. And then there's advanced, what I would call advanced software. So AI and machine learning type software. So that's kind of an inventory of what we see in the video, kind of overview. And then how does it work? Well, if you take a look at a scenario, let's say you want to, like a border collie moves, the sheep from one pasture to another, or here it's cattle with this robot. So you would probably go to a starting location, and then based on, in part, some of the AI. There's some very interesting AI problems here. How do you train the AI system so that it can deal with stragglers, or it goes fast enough and it gets, the herd splits, what does it do? So there's a lot of opportunity there for machine learning and AI to work through that. So that's kind of a quick overview of the inventory and how it would work. I think it is for real. I know that Australia has been very innovative in robotics, especially in the agricultural sector. Going back to the 80s, even when they had a robot that would shear a sheep. So, and looking at it, I have every reason to believe that it's for real.
Well, that's really interesting because, growing up, I remember in the 60s that there's a lot of things that never really quite panned out. I don't know if you remember this, but one of them was the jetpack, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be all flying around with jetpacks, and every once in a while you would see some demonstration and a guy would fly up and then just smack right into the side of a cliff or something, right? And so it just never really materialized. But it seems like to me this technology has a lot of components that are maturing and quickly. And so it looks like it could be the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of areas where you wouldn't think robots, could be used in the past, like, vacuuming your floor and so on. And now they have been it's more mature technology, more adapted. And so I can see something similar, in a similar way happening with herding. And it seems like they have a great need over there for this. There could be a number of economic benefits, environmental benefits as well. So I look forward to seeing the technology mature even more, and maybe there'll be some applications of it here in the U.S. We don't have the great expanses they have in Australia with animals, but there are some places out west. So anyway.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much all we have time for today. But here's a serious question. I've been concerned that if I were to use technology like this, can I still wear my cowboy hat?
Well, of course you can. Yeah. Maybe the animals would find you, more threatening than the robot. Who knows?
Okay. Very good. And as we say on this episode, thanks for being on the show, Mike, and happy trails to you.
You're welcome. See you.
And that's what Michael Hennessy had to tell us about how this stuff works. And the thing that occurred to me when he was talking is that, this is technology that's going to spread. So I might not have to go clear to Australia to be one of these new modern cowboys. But it did strike me. I was wondering that this is going to impact a lot of people, maybe an entire industry here, the cattle industry. And I thought about how do we, how can we get a peek into the future and figure out what that is? And so I asked Tyler Shipper, who's a professor of economics at the University of St. Thomas, to kind of give us his insight on what this might mean in terms of people like me who are thinking about being a modern cowboy. Welcome to Dr. Tyler Shipper, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of St. Thomas, to The Professor is Live. And Tyler, what are the possible impacts of the robot cowboy on the cattle industry and the people who work in it?
I found this video really interesting simply because we've been so worried about whether AI replaces or complements workers, and this seems to be a use case where there might not be somebody to substitute for. This might be a really great case where this is complementary technology that can really transform the farm sector. Okay.
And how do you see this in just terms of overall impact, and how quickly do you think this is going to come upon us?
There are already some things in the farm industry that are like this, just not with AI. I had the unique opportunity of staying at a working dairy farm. They attach this Airbnb to the dairy farm, and you can stay there overnight to see how things work. And it's already set up so the cows go into a little barn and they more or less milk themselves each day. And then it's got incentives for the cows to not go too many times because they don't get a treat if they try and go too many times. So this type of robotics, if not AI, is already showing up in the farm sector. And that's mostly because it's really hard to hire workers at a feasible wage. And so this kind of technology might be what I'm hoping for, is that it might allow more family farms to implement this type of technology and compete against bigger farms. Because we've seen a pretty big decrease in the number of family farms. And so when we think about rural America in particular, that type of kind of farming lifestyle is kind of going away. And I'm hoping that maybe with some of these type of technologies can level the playing field a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then what do you think it might do for prices? Would it help a little bit with, farming prices, you think?
Absolutely, right? So there was a couple parts of this. One is that there's a labor story that you don't have to hire as many workers to work as cowboys to move the cattle around, even if you could find them. Then there's also the part of this where it's more efficient, that they're actually able to move the cattle to places where there is actually the grass that is healthier and more ready to be grazed upon. So you get healthier beef, you get lower input costs, and here's your upside for environmentalism. You might get less overgrazing, which means less erosion, which means better creek and water quality for everybody else, which I think would be a upside to this type of technology.
Oh, yeah. So there are some positive things to look at this from an economic perspective, it seems like to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, now let's get back to me, because mostly this show is about me. What about that cowboy hat business? If I were to get into this industry and be working with this, could I still wear my cowboy hat?
I think you could, but I didn't see quite yet where you get to ride around on the robot. Like, it's your own kind of robot. You let it do all the work and you just kind of supervise it from a nice seat on the back and yell yeehaw every once in a while. But I think you could make it work. You could request that from the researchers at University of St.
Well, that's good to hear. I love that hee-haw bit too. And so, well, thank you, Tyler, for being on our show. And as we say with this episode, is happy trails to you.
Thanks. Great being
Well, there you have it. And so what do you think? Are you getting excited about this idea, Rico?
I believe the Australian cattle dogs are starting a union, but the sheep seem less nervous.
Okay, there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm gonna just bypass that and go on to the next thing that I've been thinking about. And that is, if I'm actually going to do this, because my brother-in-law, Dean, actually did become an artist and he's got a studio and the whole thing. If I'm going to take on this cowboy stuff, what skills will I have to have? And so I decided to reach out to an employment expert, a person around that knows about basically development of skills and those kinds of things. And that is Dr. Bob Grassberger. And so here's what he had to say about it. Welcome to Dr. Bob Grassberger, expert on workforce development, to The Professor is Live. So Bob, what new skills will people need to work with Robot Cowboys?
Well, Mark, a little bit has changed since you were a kid and you were watching Gene Autry and Roy Rogers. The modern cowboy is kind of a different game anymore. As a matter of fact, if you want to make money as a rancher, you need to not only manage your cattle, but you also need to manage the land that your cattle are on. So we've seen a bunch of technologies that advance that. Perhaps one of the most recent that's most recently being used is putting ear tags on. So you, in your cowboy days, would have been out there riding around on your horse, checking cattle individually to see if there was disease or what have you. Now you have an ear tag that feeds data back to your computer, and so you can tell what's the temperature of that cow, how well is it doing. So that's one of the first kind of things. Other things that you might have done as a cowboy in your past, you might have gone out and put up a lot of fencing, right? We think about ranches are fenced in. Well, the reality is that's not good for the environment, and that's a lot of man hours to put that fencing in. Now they're doing things called virtual fencing, where you put a collar on those cattle, and then you can actually move your virtual fence and keep those cattle in the places you want them to be, the places that are the richest with regard to the grass, the forage, and where the water is. You can watch the water. And then the third thing that I think that's been a big game changer in ranching is drones. Drones and satellites, actually, because from a satellite image, you can tell what the optimal places are on your rangeland, and actually what places might be overgrazed based on the satellite images you get. And then you can use drones to learn more about that land. And actually, some people are using drones to herd their cattle. So, Mark, I'm afraid that if you want to wear your cowboy hat and go out and ride the range, you're probably not going to do it. You can wear that hat, but it'll probably be in front of your computer or your cell phone.
So getting back to the skills people are going to need then. So it seems like a lot more technical skills and a lot less time spent in the saddle, so to speak.
Mark, there's going to be a lot less time in the saddle and a lot more time in the saddle in front of your computer. Indeed, the skill sets are just like all other sectors. The need for people who are technologically competent is huge in ranching as well as farming in general.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for being with us today. And is this where you sing Happy Trails? I can't remember.
Happy trails to you.
And that's what Dr. Bob Grassberger says about the future. So I don't know about you, Rico, but I'm kind of getting excited about this.
This is both great for agriculture and farming, and also for technology. I think it'll present a lot of new jobs in the future.
So there you have it. So now here's one of the things I would like you to do if you're out there watching us right now live, is that put into our chat feed something like "I'm here" or "I'm here right at this time," and just to let us know who's watching us live, because we know we have a larger audience that sees this as a recording. So if you do that for us, that would be terrific. And while you're working on that, the other thing you could do is you can go to that website, theprofessorislive.com, to find previous episodes with links to YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. So we're doing that right now. And so I'm going to take a peek out there in that little chat feed and see what I see. And not a whole lot right there. Rico, what do you think? Do you think maybe... because I'm pretty sure your brother Dean was going to watch this, so that would have been one person anyway. So Well, you just never know about that. All right, so how are we going to bring this in for a landing? What do you think?
I think we've gotten some people interested, and this is a new technology, and I think it's pretty wonderful, and I'm hoping people stay interested.
Well, very good. Me too. And so, as we learned today, Robot Cowboys are a good thing to look forward to. So, I'm going to say we'll see you next time on The Professor is Live.
Adios, my friends.
Adios. You think that's good? Yeah.
Good enough.
Watch past episodes of The Professor is Live on www.theprofessorislive.com. Videos are on YouTube's The Professor is Live channel, and podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, and Google.